Are you ready to navigate the new way to work? Forbes Books presents Dare to Care in the Workplace with Kathleen Quinn Votaw. Here's Kathleen.
So my guest this week is James Robilotta. I am so excited about having him on my podcast. I think this might be the best one ever. James helps audiences transform their leadership, their connections, overall impact on the world with a unique blend of humor, profound insights, and he works with corporations, colleges, emphasizing the power of embracing imperfections. James, welcome to the podcast.
What is going on? What an honor to be hanging out with you today, friend.
I have been waiting for this moment since Influence 2022, where I have to share the story. James is a, breakout speaker at this conference for a bunch of, nationally renowned speakers. And it is standing room only, ladies and gentlemen. And he starts talking about pancakes. So I got to hear, where the heck did the pancakes come from? You got to tell that. We got to start there.
If we're going to make somebody feel something, we got to put some food in their belly. So let's start with pancakes. No. Yeah, I love that. I love your memory on this too. Yeah, I start most of my speeches about with pancakes. It's not necessarily pancakes. It's about food quirks. I have a specific way that I eat pancakes, so it's an easy, fun way to start it. But I love starting with humanity, and quirks are a really cool way for us to establish humanity in the room, as opposed to credentialing and trying to put a gap between myself and the audience. It's like, I'm weird. Are you weird? Cool. Let's do this together. Because I think that's what we need to do in the workplace. That's what we need to do in friendships and relationships. Right? Let us get over ourselves.
It was fantastic. And you really just, calmed the entire crowd down, who all think they're all that in a bag of chips sometimes. And you're just talking about how people eat pancakes. It was the best. It was really the best moment of the entire conference for me. And that's why I know you're going to be even more successful than you already are. But let's start with your background in stand-up and improv. Tell us about from where you come.
Yeah, for sure. Born and raised in Long Island, New York. Went to school in the South, spent 7 years learning what grits and sweet tea was and wasn't mad about it. And then moved back up to the city to both enter a career in higher education. I did a lot of leadership development on college campuses, but while at the same time, I wanted a job in a city where I could do comedy. And so that is how I wound up in New York. And I did stand-up and improv comedy for a very long time, still do, and absolutely love them. It was a really cool way to build community, a fascinating way to humble myself, and also to get better at communication, and also to get better at speaking. And like I said, make some friends along the way in a gigantic city.
Yeah, absolutely. And, did you know I was an RA, a resident assistant in my college
I didn't, but
years?
I was an RA, and now I'm even more excited about this. Where were you an RA?
I was a resident assistant at Emmanuel College, an all-women's Catholic college in Boston, Massachusetts. And when I was reading your bio, I'm like, man, he was a resident director who is like the grand poobah of all resident, assistants out there. And you're like an ongoing college student for years. How did that job inform what you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't pay rent until I was like 32.
Brilliant.
You get to live, right? You live for free as an RA, then you live for free as a grad student in res life, and then as a professional. It was crazy. I lived in New York City on West 59th Street on the 19th floor, overlooking Lincoln Center in a 2-bedroom apartment, all to myself for free. And it was a friend of mine was in real estate, and they said, James, if you could sell this apartment, you'd probably get like $4,500 a month for it. And I tried to convince the guy who did the ID cards to swing me something, but he wouldn't. So here we are. but I love your question. Working with college students was incredible, is incredible. I still have the fortunate opportunity to be able to do it. I love working with college students because when you work with college students, they're at a point in their life where they're asking themselves the question of why. Why does this matter to me? Why do I think this? Why do I want to do that? What do I want for myself? What's this all about? Right? Those why type questions. And that's a really cool moment to get to somebody. And so I really loved getting to work with those individuals on a day-to-day basis because I know how impactful college was for me. It's where I learned what leadership was and what leadership wasn't. It's what I learned what being a good man was and what being a good man wasn't, and a good human and a socially just individual. Right? Like I had my eyes open during that time, and so I love working with individuals who are asking themselves the question of why. And so how it's informed what I do now is that, yes, I still work with college students and I still happily speak on college campuses. I also do a large majority of my speaking in corporations and associations, though. And I try to get individuals to pause for just a second and think about, what am I doing here? Why does this matter to me? Why do I lead like this? Why do I listen like that? Or why do I speak in this way? Or why do I think this about this group of people? Or why do I, right? And so that's the big goal behind what I do. And, I think a lot of that stemmed from those students that I had the opportunity to work with and once was myself.
Yeah, and they're so precious at this age. I have a 22-year-old who's about ready to graduate on
Wow.
Saturday, and he is going through these moments of, "Hey, I got this," and "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" and "Oh, I'm so independent and all that in a bag of chips, and I don't know what I'm going to do next." I mean, that looming question of why. What advice would you give to those college and high school graduates right now who are facing that why?
I think the cliche advice is it's a marathon, not a sprint. And
Yes.
when we think about it in that way, though, what that ideally does is release a little bit of tension. I think it's about focusing on finding your next job. Like your dream job would be incredible, but you're not leaving college and finding your last job. You are finding your
Mm-hmm.
next job. And so if we look at
Mm-hmm.
it that way, then we can take a step, then we can move forward. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to stay in motion. Let's go step in the crap of life and figure it out. But
Mm-hmm.
let us keep moving and let us do things that stir our emotions. And so it's beautiful because as soon as you graduate, you pick up a pen and you start to write your next chapter. And what are you writing? Are you writing something that you're excited about, that you want to share with other people, that you're proud of, that you're, eager to write more of? I think that's what it's about, even if it's not going to end up with glory and dreams and all that other kind of stuff. Like let's do things that stir our emotions and make us think and keep us moving forward so that we eventually can maybe achieve peace and happiness and all those things that sound cool.
That's beautiful advice. I'm thinking of that, Christmas song in one of the movies you see around, December, put one foot in front of the other, and just keep moving forward. Or the scene from Finding Nemo, just keep swimming, just keep
Just keep
swimming.
swimming. Yep. We can go to Frozen too. All I need to do is the next right thing, right? Like that's it, right? Like
Exactly. Lots of lyrics here. We could go off on lyrics. So you wrote this great book, Leading Imperfectly. Um, so tell us about that book and why you wrote it.
yeah, so Leading Imperfectly came out a handful of years ago, and it's all about this idea that we as humans can't learn things from people who are perfect. We can only learn things from people who are imperfect. So when we lead, we need to be leading through our slips, our struggles, our faults, our stories, and also through our strengths. It's about, again, kind of what we were talking about a little earlier. It's about humanizing ourselves, right? It's like let us not forget that though we are the CEO of, the president of, the CIO, the VP of whatever, but we also eat our pancakes weird. right? Like,
Mhm.
and share
Yeah.
that story as well. What you heard me talk about at Influence is really the crux of that book, where it all comes back to relatability and the power of relatability. Because when we see ourselves in someone else, we believe that we can. And what a gift to give to the people who we have the opportunity to lead, whether they
Mhm.
are our children, our partners, our friends, or our employees. It's a really cool gift to allow someone to see themselves in you. Because otherwise we always think that we're behind, or we're not doing enough, or that we are not enough, or that if this the one thing could change, then I would finally get to blank, and if I could just achieve this, and then surely happiness and peace, and that's not really the way it is. So what if we became a little more content with where we are? Not to say that we're done growing, but like, what if we accepted where we were in this moment and met other people where they were and said, okay, here's where we are. What are we going to do? Where do we want to go? I think that's
Hmm.
what that book is about.
That's a beautiful message. How do you get, I spend a lot of time with CEOs and key leaders across the country. How do you get them to let go that they're not perfect? How do you
Yeah.
get them to let go to tell their ugly stories and all their mistakes? Because that's what people want.
Yeah. You're totally right, Kathleen. They do. It's so funny. Whenever I give this speech, and there are people of all sorts of levels in the room, right? Like entry level to new managers to, CEOs, C-suite, C-level folks. It's always funny because whatever rung on the ladder they're at, they'll come up to me and be like, I'm really glad you said that, because, the people I lead really need to hear this. Right. Or, I'm so
Ugh.
glad you said this, because the people that I'm, the new recruits that we got here, the interns, they really got to hear this message. But if I ever talk to individuals, like I had an opportunity to speak to a big mortgage company. I just talked to their vice presidents, and it was all VPs in the room. And the way that they heard the message was completely different, because the people that they lead were not in the room. They just
Mm.
had to hear it as if it was for them. And the responses and the questions and the dialogue that we got into was so powerful, because it turns out there's no point in life where all of a sudden we're like, oh, I'm not insecure anymore. This is great.
Yeah.
Um, right. Like, there's always something. We naturally compare ourselves to other people. And so what I have found is even though this isn't always possible, but if you can get people on the same level to have this conversation with each other, then they can start to see themselves in each other and be like, okay, great. None of us really know exactly what's going on, but we all are successful, and we've gotten here for a reason. We weren't hired by accident or moved up by luck. We deserve to be here, and we have room to grow, as opposed to when other levels are in the room and like, I'm glad. Yeah, this is great. Yeah. I'll never show my employees this, but I'm glad they're here, because they should show me their vulnerabilities. That would be really nice.
Yeah, we're all wrapped up in, I call them masks. We wear a mask every day. We show up, we wear a mask. Even, you and I are speakers, right? I put on my Spanx and you put on your jacket, and we get up there and we try our very best. We're all trying to hide from something. And if we
Yeah.
could share those things that are deeper, that we're scared of, how much more could we inspire those around us, especially in the work environment. I wrote 2 books, Dare to Care in the Workplace and Solve the People Puzzle. So I'm hyper focused on the workplace. And
Mm.
I feel like when we cross the threshold to work, we change. Have you seen that? Have you experienced that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's a tough barrier to let down. And I understand it to a certain extent, because that job and the money that we get to bring home allows us to achieve whatever we're trying to achieve in life, whether it's peace, or if it's a vacation, or if it's more time with their loved ones, or the ability to do a hobby that we really like, or the ability to I don't know, go for walks with our dogs, or whatever people want to do. And so I get that there's more stakes involved with those individuals. And
Mm-hmm.
so I understand some of the gap that happens when you walk through that threshold into work. And I think it's really important for us as individuals to be more relatable, because in those moments, first off, relatability begets relatability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Authenticity begets authenticity, all those kinds of things. And so if we can create a space where people feel like they can lower their shoulders, that's what increases innovation. That's what
Mm-hmm.
creates more productivity. That's what creates, people, community. People, yes,
Mm-hmm.
paychecks are great. We should pay our people the wages that they deserve. What is also true is that people will show up for community way faster than they'll show up for paychecks.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you, because it's about the communities we're building in our workplaces versus the work we're doing. Because the Gallup 12 says, we have to have community. We have to have a best friend at work. We have to have a safe place to land. And
Mm-hmm.
it just keeps me up at night that we change our behavior just because we're at work. We're still human beings. Last I checked, we're
Yeah.
still human beings, and we have to, give each other space.
Yeah.
Okay, well, James, we have much more to get to, but we have to stop here. Coming up in the second part of my conversation with James Robilotta, the author of Leading Imperfectly, James talks about how he uses improv comedy to help leaders and improve teamwork.
We'll have them do some improv activities where we pair up and have this conversation, pair up and do this activity, or get into this small group. And a lot of that's around listening, and thinking about how do you listen, and where are you getting in your own way and maybe your team's way because you're not spending enough time listening, and start trying to get people to reflect on when do I listen and when do I speak and why.
This has been Dare to Care in the Workplace. To connect with Kathleen, go to KathleenQuinnVotaw.com. Kathleen's book, Dare to Care, is available wherever books are sold. Dare to Care in the Workplace is a production of Forbes Books.